Hi, good to see you again. Welcome to Block 3, Developing Number Sense, Lesson 6. I'll share my screen. So, in our previous lesson, you learned how to use factors to simplify calculations. In today's lesson, you're going to learn how to use estimation as a method for checking mental calculations. Remember to like the video, share the video with those you think can benefit, subscribe to the channel, and click on the notification bell so that when new videos are released, you will be notified. Before we start, I would like you to pause the video and answer questions, the retrieval practice questions in 3 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered the retrieval practice questions, here are the answers. Let's discuss them. So for the first one, you were asked to work out the area of the rectangle. The area of a rectangle is length times width. So 3 times 6 is equal to 18 squared centimeter. Next, you were asked to work out the area of the triangle. The area of a triangle is half times the base times the height. So half of the base times the height. So when we do that, we'll have half times 12 times 5, which is half times 60, which is 30 squared meters. Next, we were asked to work out the positive square roots. So the positive square roots of 36 is 6. Why? Because 6 times 6 is 36, and the positive square root of 81 is 9. Why? Because 9 times 9 is 81. Let's do some new learning for this lesson. If you're asked to work out 412 plus 79, what mental strategy would you use? How would you go about this? Well, we could use estimation to check our calculation. So we could do the estimate of 412, which is 400. So 400 is closer to 412, and 80 is closer to 79. So our calculation in estimation becomes 400 plus 80, which is 480. And notice this notation here. This means approximately equal to. What about this calculation here? Which is the most appropriate calculation to use to estimate the answer to 87 times 28? Have a think. Well, if you look at the first one, you would see that 80 is not closer to 87 when you compare it to 90. 90 is closer. And likewise, 20 is not closer to 28 when you compare it to 30. 30 is closer to 28. For this one, the case is the same. 30 is closer to 28, but 80 is not closer to 87 compared to 90. It's the same for that one. 87 is closer to 90, but 28 is not closer to 20 when you compare it to 30. So these calculations would not work, rather this one. Pause the video and answer questions 1 to 4. Pause the video and answer question 1 in 1 minute. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered question 1, here are the answers. Let's discuss them. So for question 1, you were asked, Whitney is trying to work out 119 plus 395 in her head. The answer is 414. You're asked to complete the sentences to estimate the answer. Well, 119 is closer to 100 and 395 is closer to 400. So our calculation is 500. Well, do you think Whitney is correct based on your estimate? No. Okay. So Whitney is not right. So this is how estimation can help us to check the answers to our calculations. Pause the video and answer question 2 in 1 minute. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered question 2, here are the answers. Let's discuss them. So for question 2, you will ask, Mrs. Rose has given her class a question, and here is the question. He says the answer is 33. So let's use estimation to show that he is incorrect. So 52 is closer to 50, 29 is closer to 30. 50 minus 30 is 20. So he is incorrect. And then the mistake Ron has made is doing his calculation incorrectly. Pause the video and answer question 3 in 2 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered question 3, here are the answers. Let's discuss them. So for question 3, you were asked to estimate the answer to the question in your head and to work out the answer in your head. So this calculation, 3,900 would be closer to, so the estimate here is 5,000. Okay, so here the person would simply say 1,000 plus 4,000, 5,000. And then when you do the calculation, this is what you get. Okay, so here are the answers. So estimation can really help us to do calculations much quicker and to check that our answers are correct. Pause the video and answer question 4 in 2 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered question 4, here are the answers. Let's discuss them. So for question 4a, you will ask, use estimation to explain why the statements must be true. So using estimation, we know that's closer to 500. We know that's closer to 1,000. So that's equal to 1,500. So this calculation, okay, that one, you can see that calculation is less than 500 and this is less than 1,000. So obviously this calculation, this statement is correct. Here, using estimation, you can see that this can be simply 30 times 6, which is 180. And we know that 32 is greater than 30, which we used for our estimate. So this calculation must be right. This statement must be right. Here, we know that the closest square root, or the closest square root is 64. And we know that the estimate that we have used, which is 64, is actually less. 69 is greater than the actual estimate which we've used, which is 64. So that statement is right. And here is the answer to D. So we're asked to check that this is right. Well, we know the closest one we can find is 4,900, which is 70. So we know that the estimate that we have used, which is 4,900, is greater than the actual statement that we're given. So this calculation here must be less than that one. So it's correct. Let's look at another example for this lesson. So is the following statement true or false? So this is close enough to the last question, or similar to the last question that we did for the previous half of the lesson. Now, we can use estimation to help us check whether this statement is correct. So have a think, which of the closest square roots would you use? What facts do you know that would help you? Well, we know that 16, the square root of 16 is 4. So the square root of 1600 must be 40. Okay? So the square root of 1600 must be 40. Now, we know that the number that we have used for the estimate is actually less than 1,500. So we know that that statement must be false. because the number we've used for the estimate, the closest estimate that we could find, is less than 1,500. So this is the correct statement. So that is false. How could we estimate the square root of 43? Well, think about the closest square roots you can find closer to 43. We know that the closest one is 36 and 49. Why? 6 times 6 is 36 and 7 times 7 is 49. So the estimate for the square root of 43 must be between 6 and 7. How could we use estimation to work out calculations that could look very difficult compared to doing it mentally? Well, we know that 405 is closer to 400 and 98 is closer to 100, 3.54 is closer to 4, and 5.45 is closer to 5. So our calculation simplifies to this. And we know that fraction can be written as division. So this calculation simplifies to 500 divided by 20. And that gives you 25. You could use a calculator to check that this estimate is actually correct for the calculation. How could we use estimation to check this calculation? Well, we know that 163 is closer to 160. So this calculation simplifies to 3/8 of 160. And you know, when we did fraction of amounts, we divide by the denominator and we multiply by the numerator. So this simplifies to 160 divided by 8. And then we need 3 lots of that. So we'll do whatever result we get times 3, which is 60. It's now time for you to pause the video and practice what you've learned. Pause the video and answer question 5. In fact, the answer is already displayed. So let's discuss it real quick. So, some students have tried to work out some calculations mentally. Here, he says this is the answer. Now, do you agree with Rose? Of course we do, because if we use estimation, we'll see that our answer is close to 133. Why? This is closer to 20, so 20 times 7 is 140. And we can see that the estimate we have used is less than 20. The number for the calculation is less than the estimate we have used. So 19 times 7 must be less than 140. Here, we've been asked to check this as well. So 39 times 5. So we do not agree because he's got 205, whereas 40 times 5 should be 200. Why do we disagree? The number we've used to do the estimate for the calculation is actually less. The number we've used, 40, is actually greater than the actual number for the calculation. So if we did that, it means that our estimate, his answer should actually be less than our estimate. So his answer is wrong. Pause the video and answer question 6 in 2 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered the questions, here are the answers. So to do an estimate, this calculation becomes this calculation becomes 200 times 8. And that should be your answer. If you do your estimate, this calculation becomes half of 10 times 3, which is 15. Pause the video and answer question 7 in 2 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered question 7, Here are the answers. Let's discuss them. For question 7, you were asked, Miss Lee wants to buy these items. She has £10 to spend. Use estimation to decide if Miss Lee has enough money, and then take your answer. She has enough money. How do we use estimation to do this? So she's going to spend £1. That would be £4. That's £5. That is closer to £3. That's £8. And that's closer to £2. So that's £10. So she has enough money. Pause the video and answer questions 8 and 9 in 3 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered questions 8 and 9, here are the answers. Let's discuss them. So for question 8, you were asked, Philip receives £10 for his birthday. He wants to buy as many packs of cards as he can. Estimate how many packs he can buy and explain how you arrived at your estimate. Well, the estimate is to make this have an estimate for £1.89, which is closer to £2. So you divide £10 by £2, which will be 5. So you can buy 5 packs of card. Here you are asked to estimate the answers to the calculations. That is closer to £4 plus £2 and plus £3. So 4 plus 2 is 6 plus 3 is 9. Here, this is 2/5 becomes 2/5 of 60. 60 divided by 5 is 12. 12 times 2 is 24. Here, this is closer to 20. So 20 times 9 is 180. And that brings us to the end of our lesson. So in this lesson, you have learned how to use estimation as a method for checking mental calculations or for checking actual calculations, just to check real quick that you have done the right calculation. Well done for sticking around and for taking your learning seriously. Until next time, take care of yourself and bye-bye.